couple minutes for that to spin up. But I'll get you the URL, and you can share it with your friends and on social media, etc.
I got it.
Just please be aware that we are streaming live the award ceremony.
Yeah, and this will be simulcast to Twitch, Hard Chat, and
All right, so supposedly, I'm gonna put this in chat. This is the YouTube simulcast.
Yep.
For those of you who follow me, it's on my account. It's if you look for the One Pro Bro on YouTube, you'll find me.
It always shows you in blue because you guys are the only one with cameras on right now.
Oh. Well then.
we may need to turn off.
Yeah, we may need to turn off cameras if we're not talking. So Best Blue, if you don't mind, kill your camera, please. Thank you, sir. Perfect. So anyway, oh shoot, I have to record this for posterity too. Oh, it is recording.
It is recording.
Oh, nice. Wonderful. So I'll edit that later. I wonder if I hit play here, will it actually show? Let me mute my mic real fast.
The YouTube live stream is about 45 seconds delayed from real life. Just
yeah,
in case.
I get that. I get that. That's part of the problem that we have with doing this all the time. When we did this in the trainings back in the fall, we had that. So I'm going to kill. I'll kill the audio there, and we'll get going here in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Joe, I already tweeted that though.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Slideshow from beginning. All right, so I am completely blind now. Let me share my screen. Let me share screen 2. All right, everybody see that?
Yep.
Perfect. All right.
And we also have auto-generated captioning.
That is fantastic. That's Zoom, I believe.
Yeah, it's only for whoever's talking. Oh, I guess it's you then. It's only you. Oh, keys on your voice.
That makes sense. So I guess we will not be able to get. I wonder if it will do if I make you a co-host. Wasabi, I'm going to make you a co-host real quick and see if we'll see if.
I'm pretty sure the closed captioning just said that you're making me CEO, so I'm okay with this.
Okay, hang on.
No more C-level captioning, please, or titles.
If the closed captions say I'm CEO, then it's true.
Okay, so I made you co-host. Say something.
Can you hear me?
I'm still not giving you. It's only keying on my mic because I guess I'm the host. Anyway, no, well, that sucks. We'll roll with it.
All right, I'm about to start streaming it on Twitch.
By all means, please do so.
Alrighty, cool.
Wait, how can? So you should be able to hear me.
I can hear you fine. You're just not coming up in the captioning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. It's fine. I can go back on the YouTube recording later on and do closed captioning there. I do that for my classes all the time. So we'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. That's easy.
All right, I have 11 a.m. Welcome everybody to the awards ceremony for the Western Regional Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. I will be your MC and host this morning / early afternoon. My name is Dr. Brandon Brown. I'm a professor at Coastline College, and I am the director of WRCCDC. Today, we will be covering debriefs from my teams that ran the competition over the last 2 days. That will be from our operations team, our red team, our judging team, and our customer service / orange team. So we're really excited. I want to first off and foremost thank all the participants, all the blue teamers that were out there. They did an amazing job this weekend, and you're going to be hearing a lot about their experiences and everything. I also want to make an announcement that our sponsors will be hosting a virtual recruiting event both Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll drop those links into the chat here in Zoom that everybody that has joined the Zoom room can grab. That's going to be Tuesday the 30th from 12 to 3 and Wednesday the 31st again from 12 to 3. There are 2 separate links. I'll drop them in the chat here over the course of today's festivities. But with that, okay. I kind of broke down the agenda already. Sorry, got a little bit ahead of myself. So again, we're going to have debriefs from the different team leads. Then we'll get into caption awards. It's just a breakdown of what teams did, the top 3 teams in each category. And then we'll announce the first, second, and third place in reverse order here at the end. But first, I really need to thank all of our sponsors. Without them, this activity would not go. It just simply would not happen. I'm very proud that we have probably the most sponsors of any regional in the National Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition umbrella. We work extremely hard, both myself and especially my staff, at recruiting sponsors. This is a great activity that's been going on for more than 15 years nationally. And in being a sponsor for WRCCDC, you get to pick the cream of the crop that are out there in cybersecurity because they participate in this activity. So again, a big, huge thank you to all of our sponsors. I also want to thank our staff and our volunteers. Without them, this ship doesn't go. Again, pardon the pun. My right-hand person and probably my best friend in CCDC is Wasabi. And without Joe Needleman's help and inspiration and vision for this competition, it doesn't get off the ground. He'll take a bow in a little bit when he goes through the operations debrief. His exec and our one of our lead engineers, Blue Screen of Win. Michael Glass is a fantastic person. He has taught me a great deal about PanOS because I'm just a dumb Cisco guy. I'll say that because they're not a sponsor, but he's been very instrumental in getting our environment set up along with the rest of the operations team. And some of these operators have been around as long as I have in this activity, either starting out as a student competitor or as a volunteer. So just want to give them a shout out. If we're not for them, again, things just would not move. My white team lead, Mr. Tim Krug, aka Wook. He is writes almost all the injects. All right, grades all the injects for sure. And hopefully he's not too terribly tired, because he was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning making sure all that was getting done. And I want to thank his white team members as well. And then my orange team lead, again, one of my very, very good friends, very best friends, Mr. Jeff Best. He's ran the orange team for a couple of years now, has done a fantastic job of organizing the customer service team. And he'll talk a little bit about that here momentarily. Mr. Savage, Eric Crutchlow, has ran our red team this year, did a really good job getting people organized for that, and also in coordinating with our red team members that came in from Thug Crowd. So I have a lot of their handles up there. They have a whole hour to talk later, so I'll give them that opportunity. My volunteer coordinator, Miss Caroline Bednarski, she in the COVID years has been very instrumental in getting the room judges together and volunteers and coordinating, communicating with everybody. And in the non-COVID years, making sure that we have hotel rooms and accommodations, and she helps out with the event coordinator, which we do not have this year, but because we're all 100% remote, and making things go there. The executive producer for the event is Dr. Shelley Blair. She is my dean at Coastline College. Without the support of Coastline College, this would not go either. There's a lot of different people that come together and make things happen at WRCCDC. It's a huge event to produce and publish and get out there. It's tantamount to almost putting on a Hollywood style production at times. But we have a lot of fun with it. I want to thank all of my Gold team members that have helped us out with things like getting T-shirts, getting trophies, which you don't see right now, which you'll be getting mailed out to. Everybody will get their T-shirts mailed out here this week. They have not landed on my front doorstep yet. I apologize for that. But I do have all your addresses, thank goodness. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wasabi, to Mr. Joe Needleman, for the operations team debrief. And if you would, Joe, just kindly tell me when to change slide, and I'll advance the slide for you.
Yep, a little bit of doxed right there, but that's okay. So welcome to the operations debrief. So first off, we don't get paid for any of this, as you know. It's a huge undertaking. This year, I had about 16 volunteers. Had more, but due to COVID and a lot of volunteers actually getting COVID or having to move because of different situations because of COVID, that number fluctuated quite a bit. But in general, it was about 16 volunteers who helped make this possible. And the teams this year have been really outstanding with the memes. We appreciate it. As I was saying before the call really started, there's no, we get paid in chuckles and memes, and you guys have been keeping us entertained. Even when you think you're losing and doing terribly, you're still making memes. In some cases, teams have just switched to making memes instead of competing. I don't know if that's a good strategy, but we enjoy it. It's been a blast this year working with the teams, especially one of the teams who took the printer and added code to make it have printer jams every hour, and kept a joke going through the entire time. You guys just make this fun, and really this event is for you guys. We don't really get anything out of this anymore as we're not competitors, but we do really appreciate that. So the first thing is, this year there were a couple of things that changed, and really teams did not make use of these changes, and it was a little problematic to see. First, teams were provided with several useful services. The topology was purposely vague. You were given a host name and what the service was running, but not what it was or what IP. Teams were actually making memes about this, like, where is Git? what we had done was taken everything out of visibility for you guys before the start of the competition, but put it into your EDRs and SIMs. So all that information was available to you. And we had set it up in such a way that all these agents, like Agent 7 and Blue Spawn and Waza, were all running before we let Red Team touch it. So they actually had alerting when Red Team compromised your boxes. And I don't really know how to implore teams more than this, but please use the provided services. I know you're worried that they're going to be scary, but this is a functional service that could have helped you do IR reports and stop Red Team from getting in. In fact, what we were seeing was the opposite. Red Team had actively compromised all but 2 teams' Waza boxes because the passwords weren't even really changed on all the service accounts. So that was just an entry. We didn't even plan for that. We had set it up with a different account, but Red Team got in, and we warned you before the competition. So that was a little frustrating. But next year you have a chance to do that. We saw a lot of teams using Docker and trying to use Ansible to secure their systems and update. That's really impressive. That was a really good strategy, and I hope teams do more of that next year. I know we deployed via Ansible this year, and it mostly worked, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to just talk about the teams and the breakdowns. So this year we had a special team. It was 2, and then at the end it was just 1, but we had an apps team building custom applications. This was, I don't know if teams saw this or even Red Team saw it, but we had actual applications running that were custom in Lambda, and we had stuff.
Sorry,
whoa.
My bad.
We had services that were running it locally, like Boat Map, and that were all tied together. We gave you a lot of systems, but they were all interdependent and very much real world. We also had the service scoring team, which is Swiss and Jesse this year. There were a few people doing services, but their job is to just make sure that things go. And when you inundate us with password changes, they're the guys that get swamped. At one point, poor Jesse was loaded with 6 or 7 consecutive password changes that all were like due in like 5 minutes. He was just like, I can't handle all this. So please be mindful that it is a person doing your password changes. This is not an automated system. And then we had our cloud infrastructure team, which was myself and Wedgie, which was building all the cloud systems and all the jump boxes and making sure performance was okay in the cloud. We had the coastline infrastructure team, which consisted of the network operations as well as making sure everything was linked. That would be Davey, Blue, and Kyle, who kept everything running. I really do appreciate all of them for making that. We had an actual network mishap happen right before competition where the entirety of our network cluster in Coastline failed because of a bad Palo Alto. It just was old. Oh, okay. Back to the desktop. It had failed, but we were able to get back up and running within a couple of days and got everything working. So even though the hardware had a mishap, we were able to get that all back and running during COVID. So I really do appreciate that. We have our on-prem VM pod development team who actually does the cloning and making sure everything's running and making the pods what they are. So all that local infrastructure. And then we have the team interfacing. So this is like Turbo and a few other people who are interfacing with Red Team and the Blue teams and making sure everything goes when you're answering tickets and things like that. Those are the people who are answering it first and handing it off. It's very much real world what we do. And you wouldn't expect a lot of volunteers to be doing, tickets during the weekend on their free time, but I do appreciate all these guys for making this happen. All our volunteers are really good at making sure that this stuff is accountable, and we do this for you. I think we're the only region that does this, but we make sure that all these things are tracked so that you have points back at the end of the day, and you're not hurt by something that takes a long time. This year, I know I'm really going out on all the details of this, but we just did so much this year, it's hard to cut it down. It says my speaking voice is too quiet. Okay. This year we had a total of 110 cloud machines hosted in EC2. We were going to use ECS, which is the container services, but we didn't have time. We had 12 systems per machine in the cloud, plus jump boxes for one for the blue team and one for the orange team on each network. A total of 224 systems locally, 26 systems per pod. Some of these were very unique this year, which was we gave you clients that were just floating around on DHCP. That meant that you don't know what they are. They're not tracked by anything. They're just clients. We gave you a couple of Linux clients, a couple of Windows 10 clients, and actually 2 Windows XPs when you got Ivan's Dockyard. So these systems in total were just floating around. Red Team was actually compromising them and using them. It's up to you to use your tools that we had given you to make sure to be able to identify these. If you had looked at your DHCP logs, either in the Palo Alto, the pfSense, or Windows Server, they would have shown up and you would have been able to identify that there were additional systems in your network aside from the stuff that was on the topology. And then I do want to give a special shout out to a couple of people who just went above and beyond as volunteers this year. First, Benton, who did all the apps. As I said originally, he was leading the team originally of a couple of people, and then near the end of the competition, it was down to just him. He built all the custom boat map stuff, the UI stuff. He worked with some of the other volunteers to make all that stuff function, get it running. We got a little desperate at the end where we actually turned stuff into an inside joke where we had while loops running all your core services. It was pretty rough, but it worked and it was reliable. But we also had the custom Lambda functions and the tools to make that interface with the team pods, the custom S3 buckets. He went through above and beyond to make all this stuff happen. And literally in 24 hours, we'd gotten all this stuff up. Then there was Jesse, who maybe call him a masochist, but he went through and decided, I want to learn everything there is to know about operations team. He picked up every single role that he could, including scoring, box building, cloning, cloud, Ansible, automation. I lost count. This competition probably would not have happened without him helping tremendously during the event. And then, of course, Dulak, if I'm typoing your nickname, I'm sorry, but he also went through and picked up and most of the cloud automation stuff because I was very busy doing a lot of things to make this competition happen. Both him and Jesse made a ton of Ansible playbook roles for making all the services come up and test them. So I just wanted to shout out to them because they went above and beyond for weeks, spending hours, sometimes till 10 or 11 with me making things work. It was impressive. At its peak, we were planning on having about 40 services. That didn't turn into fruition, but we did get to 38 services that the teams were running consecutively. That's an unheard of amount. I was looking at some of the other regions, and they were a little amazed at how many we had. They thought we were just loading up services for you guys, but the truth is everything was interdependent, and it took a solid 10 months of effort to build all this. So next slide.
Yes, 1 sec.
There we go. There we go. So your systems were heavily optimized. One of the systems, the UI duplicated and had weird stuff. It was amazing. But your systems were optimized for the best possible use. One of them, I replaced WinShell with an old DOS box, and well, not an old DOS, but DOS box emulating an old game. So when you logged into RDP, it would open that up. Some of these were made for your benefit and enjoyment. Others were made to help cause red team problems. We're as an operations team, we're trying to make the playing field level. So, for example, Gulper Eel, which is the one that had the game system on RDP, was called Gulper Eel because it absorbed IP addresses. It had about 60 IP addresses that it was all addressed to. All of these were meant to slow down red team. And on the other hand, the systems were very vulnerable. So, we're trying to make it a real world where the red team has no advantage. They have some information that you may not, and you have a lot of information that they may not have. So they're using all this information together to try to, you know, have the competition, make it realistic as possible. You know, we're trying to make it so that everyone has a fun event. Like the size and scope of this event was literally meant to simulate a real world. You know, you have your websites and things hosted by different teams inside your company. All of these were tied together with shared databases and shared services. The cloud actually had its own AD that was joined to the local colo AD, so all the systems in the cloud were joined there. There were a lot of different ties to make things interdependent, and it was quite a big environment. There were different sets of passwords, like you would see in a real org, and then there were password leaks and misconfigurations. Like some servers had configuration in plain text on the root of the web server. These are all very real things. There was also an S3 bucket. Unfortunately, we made it a little bit difficult to access from a red team perspective, but that had a ton of your PII, and I don't think any teams really realized and looked at the PII that was stored in the bucket. So, you know, we're trying to expose you to advanced capabilities like the containers, like AWS, and give you as much access into those worlds as you can. So when you go into the real world, you can actually experience these things and have a feel for what it is. So yes, we overload you, but it's for a good cause. And finally, you know, the thing that we try to do is bring back some old favorites. Trusty Trucking was in there. I know a lot of teams were asking, why is there a random website and, you know, these things. Well, we had imported domain trusts. A lot of teams were like, why can't I log in? Well, we had 3 or 4 different domain trusts in the competition. There was Trusty Trucking, which was Texas Toast. There was Cheaper Than Spirit Airlines, which was another domain. And there was the SOS Boat, and then there was cloud.sos.boat. All of these were joined together and sharing their users. So Red Team actually had, if they got one domain, they could get into all the other domains as well, because they were trusted. At least they could get a foothold. So this is very real world. Trusts are everywhere, and so we're trying to give teams exposure to that. So final slide is going to be just the topology. So I'll talk while it's up. But what you didn't see was this, and I know this is completely unreadable, but this is the actual topology map that organizers were using and looking at during the competition. You can see your 26 systems down in the local, and then the 12 systems in the cloud, plus the lambdas and the S3 buckets, your jump boxes, and then Ivan's dockyard just floating off on the side. These were all different components that were staged to go in. You know, we had a plan going in, and the one of the most impressive things to me was Ivan's dockyard was a combination between Lone and Blue. They had actually planned to get it done, ran into some issues, so they thought they were going to leave it, and they actually made it happen in less than 24 hours. Friday night, it was, let's get it into the competition, and then it was in the competition the next morning, you know, yesterday. And, you know, I have to, you know, shout out to my volunteers, because none of this would happen without all the effort that they put in. You know, we have a pretty crazy team that makes last minute things happen. And, you know, a couple of years back, last time we had an in-person event, we had an issue with one of the systems, and we were having a lot of packet loss, and teams were upset, and we were like, okay, there's a problem and we have to fix it because it's our problem. Well, we were at the reception, we all sat together, we talked about it, and, you know, over the dinner, we were like, wait, let's do this. So we went, got some early sleep, and then we got up really early the next morning, like 6 a.m., and had a plan and migrated everything within an hour before the competition started. So everything was moved over. The blue teams were none the wiser, but everything was changed over. It was a massive amount of change. And then when COVID happened, we went through and got everything moved over in less than a week, from having in-person and everything to a virtual competition. You know, this year was easy because we planned it to be virtual, but I just, you know, have to shout out for my whole team who makes this happen. You know, we work year round to make this event happen and then put everything into play. And then when everything still goes and breaks, everyone comes together and makes things come back online and work. So that's it from the operations side. I know we're not the favorite team but we do make a lot of things happen. And so, shout out to my team. And if you have ever any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or, send us a message on the competition Discord.
Yeah. Thank you, Wasabi. Thanks, Joe. I cannot tell everyone how impressed I am with my operations team. If it were not for them, this event just simply would not happen. Like Joe said, they start, they're going to take about a 2-month break. And guess what? They're going to start up in, June, July, and start working on next year's competition. That said, if you want to learn a lot about these technologies in a fast-paced environment, reach out to Joe, reach out to me, tell us your interest that you want to work on the ops team, and I will guarantee you, you will learn by far a whole heck of a lot in a short amount of time that will not just help you, in this environment, but also help you out in your career as well. So I want to put that plug in there for ops team. But with that, we're going to shift gears here and go to the white team debrief with Mr. Tim Krug and Mr. Alexander Kirk. They were the two primary judges this year for all the injects. So with that, go ahead and take it away, Tim and Kirk. I will advance slides on your cue.
Okay, thanks. Great work this weekend, everyone. If you can go ahead and advance the slide, please. So, we want to highlight a few things that were, ways that we were scoring injects and some things not to do, some things to do. When I'm going to present this here, I want to make sure that you guys know I'm not trying to single out any specific team. So if you recognize yourself in the video, this isn't a dig at you specifically. So just let you know, when we were seeing and reviewing the video presentation, so on the left, it's not a full screen. We could barely see the information that's being presented. But in this case, when we were talking, and I gave you guys a heads up on Friday night, is to check your work, right? The audio. So in this particular case, the presenter, she's sitting there and she's presenting her heart out. We can't hear a single thing from her. If you want to click on the next slide, please. It's like a transition or like an animation. We're getting all of the background information or background audio from the two folks in the upper right Zoom. So we're hearing about root passwords and, oh yeah, I was, I totally saw on Twitch that these guys were attacking Team 6. We should probably check that on our systems, etc. So we're hearing just the team banter, and we weren't actually hearing the presenter. And this wasn't an isolated case. We had an entire presentation where we got every single last person's on the team's chatter over top of the presenter. So the presenter had a very quiet voice, and she's going through the presentation, but meanwhile she's getting talked over by the rest of the team, because they're just going off of one audio feed. So we're hearing the same things like, oh yeah, I need to change the password on Texas Toast, and this over here is giving me the blue screen of death, etc. And the presenters and so we're with our plan to secure the network, it's just check your work is really the nuts and bolts of what I'm trying to get to. So the next slide, please. So with regards to, that's very quick ways of how to lose points. Here's a great way of winning points. This was excuse me, this was the report of the phishing kit. And, this one, Team 3 did a really great job with it. This is something, I'm incident responder and a security analyst in my day job. And this report is something that would be worthy of being turned in at my job. So it has an executive summary, a bluff. Some people call it a bottom line up front. So it's got like a summary that just gives you the high level overview, and then it dives into the details. So it has a paragraph that explains, followed by snippets of the code, right? You can go on to the next one. Another example of the code, and then it has like a description of the behavior. So, we found this phishing kit and it's imitating Microsoft, and it writes the credentials that were stolen. It writes them to a text file that saves locally. So, they give that type of summary and that type of breakdown. And then on the next one, the next slide, please, they show a screenshot of what the actual phishing page looked like. So this was an actual phishing kit that I believe the ops team had found to, we're not trying to make the environment, we're trying to make the environment vulnerable, but still realistic. And when it comes to scoring and judging, there's elements that have to be there to, ahead of time, right? And it's not we're trying to trick you. It's not that we're trying, we have to have known variables. So if we tell you guys, oh, look for this file hash on this server, we have to stage it so that it's a known value. We can't necessarily count on the red team to get to everyone equally. One team may have a network outage, or another team may have locked down their firewall, or the red team may not have a foothold on a specific system. So again, when we're setting this up in the environment beforehand, it's not to trick you. It's not to make you think that the ops team is like trying to just undermined everything. This is really trying to establish known things that we know are there, that we know that we can check. So then if you go one more slide, the next thing here is an example of the file where the password was being stored. And in this case, the team went out of their way to not show in the report any actual credentials that were stolen. I did see other teams turn in the incident report and they just showed the actual file. So you could see this, here they ran a couple of tests with the password of Hunter2. I know the joke of Hunter2. So it's like, okay, that's obviously not a legit credential. And then below that was like Fork Bomb or something. So whether or not red team had found that and tested it, that's another story. But so this was a great example of a report where the team, did the investigation. They did find the artifacts. They presented it well, and this is an example of what how to completely win us over with like an outstanding report. So the next slide, we're going to hand this over to
I can,
Alex,
I can share my screen real quick, actually, if that's okay, Dr. Brown. I just have a brief slide I want to share.
Not a problem. Let me stop my share.
I'm going to hand this over to Alexander Kirk, who really helped me with the scoring on the back end, and he had a few notes of his own there.
Go ahead, Mr. Kirk.
Cool. Let's see. So I'm going to try presentation and hope that you can see the full screen.
Big button on the upper right.
Right. Yeah, cool.
There we go.
Can you guys see this full screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, first off, I kind of want to say very good job. everyone. You really put a lot of soul into getting these injects in. And we know that you were very busy, especially from different angles, getting hit by red team, doing a lot of services, answering orange. So we definitely appreciate the effort that you've put in all around. Absolutely. And I kind of want to say, yeah, I mentioned it last night, but as a trend, I really think you've been improving. Some of the common gotchas that I've seen before in previous years, you've really hammered out like file naming. You've handled formatting pretty well. There is an exception for one particular inject. I'll get there, but you've really improved, I want to say, overall, and I want to see you keep improving. You've really set a good standard and a good cadence for that. So there's some things I want to boil down. I'm not going to say any like who is in what range or anything like that at this time, but I do want to say 5 teams were pretty neck and neck in regards to how close they were to each other. They were in roughly 500 points of each other, actually. So I kind of just explain those differences, how, where a team could improve or where a team may have lost points in that kind of ranking, right? There are a couple easy points, a couple easy things I just want to talk about. Yeah, Dr. Brown or Tim, feel free to interject at any time if you like, or you have something to add. But
those 5 teams that were close together, were they in the middle of the pack, I assume? Or
yeah, they were below the first, second, and third teams.
Okay, so it's pretty tight in that grouping. Okay.
Yeah. But regardless,
just wanted to elaborate.
Yeah, but yeah, just to kind of give an overview as to where I think easy points were lost. To give a sense of the scoring, an inject, because we weighted the scoring, an inject could be worth anywhere between 250 points to 600 points. The big injects were the presentations, considering you had to turn in many cases, a summary, you had to turn in your slides, and you had to actually give that presentation. So that was actually, the presentations were worth the most at 600 each. So that said, if you didn't turn in a presentation, you were kind of hurting there, right? Because you'd be down 600. That, again, you with the 5 teams neck and neck within a 500 range, right? That 600 makes the difference. So thinking about that, and obviously several other injects in there, right? But anywhere between 250 to 500, that can also hurt you if you don't submit an inject. If you submit it late, you are basically going to get deduct 20% of whatever that inject was worth. And I want to say, however, that submitting it late or submitting some sort of maybe an apology note or something like, hey, we're working on it, here's the proof that we've been working on it. Submitting something is absolutely better than submitting nothing. And I do want to stress that.
And I want to make a note on that real quick, Alexander. The other regions, they won't allow you to turn in work late. We kind of are really lenient in our region on that. At nationals, if it's 1 second late, you get nothing. You're done. It's there is no recouping those points. They're just lost. Thanks.
Yeah, so definitely something to be mindful of. So definitely worth trying to get something in as opposed to nothing. And if you do get something in, right, the more you have, the more you can prove you've been working hard at something, the more professional it is, and other regards of that. Yeah, definitely that's going to play its part. So just want to make a note on that. Better to get something in, and if you can get more in, more evidence that you've been working hard at something, please get more in. If we say, hey, get a screenshot and some logs, and you just give us a screenshot, well, and this is in regards overall, not just if you weren't able to complete the task, but right, if you had an inject where we asked for logs and a lot of evidence, and you just give us a single screenshot, there isn't a lot for us to kind of go off there, right? The reason that the other three teams outside of that neck and neck 5-team bracket. The reason they were a bit higher on the scale, I think, is because they were thorough in many of their injects. They were able to provide a lot of details of evidence when we asked for thorough logs, and we asked for good reasoning and good evidence in some of these cases, a good proof. They were able to provide that. And in other cases we saw, right, again, just like, a single screenshot when we asked for example, an nmap configuration, proof of an nmap. So that was one item I want to note. Formatting. You guys did do really well. Again, overall, I'd say with formatting, one inject that kind of threw me off a little bit, that I saw a couple teams kind of still not really hit the mark there, was inject 9.5. It was just a matter of revising your incident response template. But we really just wanted to have an updated template, and some teams actually provided to us a zip, and that was kind of interesting. I understand why you might have provided a zip. You might have thought that we wanted to see the progression, but no, the inject 0 or PDF that we provided with the specifications clearly says that we're looking for PDFs. So
yeah, that goes back to the old adage, read the inject.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I need you to start wrapping up though, Alex. I need to get on to the next team lead, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. So very quickly, there's one thing I want to just stress and emphasize if I can. So again, you guys have been doing really well. I think overall in regards to formatting, you've been improving. But if there's one last thing I can stress, I really, really want you to focus on proofreading. If you have even a minute, 2 minutes, have someone else read it aloud, read your injects beforehand, right? When you see some of these examples right below, where you have weird formatting, the meaning doesn't make sense. Hello, name. The following is documentation for our new remote access policy, right? These are a lot of easy mistakes, very easy things, easy blunders that could have been fixed in a minute's time, really. So please read your work aloud, or maybe even have one of your teammates do so. Tim or Dr. Brown, any other thoughts on this? Or
one thing I did want to share, not related to what you're talking about here, is just I do apologize for the naming of the injects. I was trying to keep them consistent with inject 1, inject 2, inject 3, but the way the scoring engine works, again, I'm not trying to trick you guys, but the way the scoring engine works is like I pre-staged everything 2 days ago, but it has a static name. So if we reorder them, I have to go into every single last inject above it. So if I add something between injects 2 and 3, and that new one is now supposed to be inject 3, I have to go through injects 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up through the rest of the list and rename everything manually. So it was easier to do, inject 2.5, but that actually ended up biting us in the nethers because it was a pain to score.
I'll take the hit on that because I made you do that.
No, that's no. There were several injects that got.
I threw injects. I threw the incident response form, guys. Just so you know, that was my brainchild. I threw that at you because, again, I'm a teacher at heart. This is a cyber defense competition. Incident response is a critical piece of this competition, and I really wanted to emphasize that this year. I thought it was very important. The sim that the ops team put in there for you that was very important this year as well. That comes directly from our sponsors. Sponsors, when I talk to them about sponsoring this competition and they get your resumes, they're like, well, do they know SIM? Well, what do they know about incident response? What are they taught incident response? So I've got to deliver that for your benefit. With that, any other final thoughts, Tim? Because I got to move on to Jeff, please.
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you very, very much. All right. With that, let me go back and share my screen here. And Mr. Jeff Best, you are up, sir, with the orange team, the customer care of CCDC, please.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So we looked at a lot of stuff this year, a lot more than we usually do. Yeah, I won't go through the list. You are capable of reading, but just to get a sense of it, if it was available to the internet, if you expected a customer or some other person to access it from the internet, that's what we were testing. We were testing to see that it looked appropriate, looked the way that it should. If it was defaced, you got points knocked off for it. If it was unavailable, you didn't get any points at all. So that's kind of how we graded that. For those of you that were paying attention to your services where we could contact you, the communication was professional. Kudos to you guys, even though we were acting like customers who really didn't know what we wanted. I mean, we weren't, I don't think, acting unprofessionally, but acting as a layperson. You guys were kind and courteous, so thank you for that. For those of you who decided to cut your access off to the simulated internet in the environment to get away from the red team, that was pretty painful for you. Your customers had no way of contacting you, and that's a big problem. I mean, one way in the real world to not get hacked is to unplug yourself from the internet. But guess what? You're a business, and you're not going to make money that way. And that was reflected in your point total. Overall, the average uptime for orange team checks was about 75%. So that's really all I have.
Oh, so what was that last part?
The average uptime was about 75%.
Oh, okay. Average uptime. I didn't catch that piece. Yep. All right. Wow. You're like super duper crazy fast. All right. Did you have any interesting interactions with any of the blue teams at all? Any funny moments or?
One of them did try to help us figure out how many horses fit in a shipping container. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jeff. And now we're going to move on to the red team debrief with Eric Crutchlow and the red team. So I have several slides here. So you are up, Eric.
Thank you very much. And by the way, I just want to thank the ops team, Wasabi and team. If it wasn't for you and doing all that work you did, and I've seen some of the things that you've had to do, this competition would be very, very difficult. So I want to thank you for giving us an environment that was very easy to get into and look at, yet make the blue teamers do some work. So day one, what is the job of what we're supposed to do? Just like anything else with the kill chain, we try to exploit and persist and maybe even have a little bit of fun. We're going to go after low-hanging fruit. Whatever is easiest for us to go for. We scan your network. We use various tools. We have some great stuff that's out there. Nmap, I brought Nessus in there to use that and see what vulnerabilities you had, and we just left it up for everybody to see on the red team so they knew what to go for. Some of the things that I have over to the right, Eternal Blue is the gift that keeps on giving from the NSA. We use that quite a bit. WordPress was out there. There were lots of indexes that were out there because the web services weren't tied down too well. And there were lots and lots of hosts. Yes, thank you, Ops team, for creating all those target-rich environments. So that was day one. We tried going after you as best as we could and make sure that we got in with as many backdoors and go over your system so that day two we could go kill it pretty hard. And a lot of you found Twitch and listened to the red team, which is very unusual. I think this is the first time I've actually had that pleasure of watching you guys hear what we were saying. So if you go to the next slide. Brandon, you kick me off to the next slide, please.
I did.
Okay, there you go. Okay, maybe it was a delay in seeing it, sorry.
Okay.
So day two is all about Pi and destroy. Pi, we know that Pi is really good stuff for points. And we know that a lot of you like looking at services and making sure that the services are up. But we can also get more points going after Pi. So we had our backdoors. We came in, we checked to see if they were still there because we knew that environments change. It's traditional at CCDC that overnight they all of a sudden make some major change. And so you got to check that, am I still persistent? And we scan the environment again. What have you guys done? Have you actually improved? Some teams we can see definitely improved. Others, it was about the same. So we started to deface, get Pi, and then at the end of the day, as usual, we go nuke. So services, that was definitely one of the things we wanted to go after, but I was also encouraging people on our teams to go after Pi, and that was a lot of points for us. Next slide. Okay, so what you did, didn't change default creds. Patching, we don't know why you didn't patch. Now, in the real world where I work, we always tell people to patch. We even give them, here are the patches you need to apply when you go look at vulnerabilities that you have. We didn't see a whole lot of patching going on. We did see the red team enjoyed going out and trying to block the red team using their firewalls and anything else that was out there. And this is a game of whack-a-mole. So in the real world, you do need to patch. You do need to mitigate, because sometimes you can't patch. In other words, I got systems that are up that have to stay up, and I know there's a new threat. I'm going to look at what I can do to put something into the firewall besides just trying to block a particular port or IP address. Otherwise, you play, this whack-a-mole game. And that is really, really bad, because in the real world, when you play whack-a-mole, you're going to be sitting at the console for quite a long time. And there were logs of us doing stuff to you that were out there and available to you. We're not sure if you guys looked at them or not, but you could see us logging in every time through your logs that we were coming in as root. The bad thing you did is a few of you decided to talk to us on Twitch, and I will let some of our fun hackers here who were having a fun watching it. Don't talk to us. If you talk to us, we will definitely listen. And when you start trying to give us a hard time, we will give you attention. If you want attention, do that. And as a matter of fact, I was looking at some of the comments on there, and I had to tell the red teams, like, let's make sure that these guys are really the team who they say they are, because maybe one of the teams are doing a good job of social engineering us and trying to get us to focus attention on somebody else. One of the tricks that we did enjoy is we were taking down systems, and one of the teams, who will go nameless for the moment, they know who they are, decided to revert AMI snapshots in the cloud, which is great. So needless to say, that was a lot of fun watching you guys keep on reverting your snapshots. But in the real world, you're reverting a snapshot that we've already compromised, and you're not going to be able to do that in the real world. So it's good in competition, but it isn't something you would want to do in the real world. And maybe next time we might even track that a little bit differently and do some stuff for you. Okay.
So I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
And this is mostly the blue teams, and you can throw this in chat if you want to. Why did you not patch? That makes like zero sense to me. I can understand why you would not want to patch everything at once. I get that. I completely understand why you took a lot of snapshots, and I guess your strategy was to say, well, if I get compromised, I'm just going to revert from my snapshot. But guess what? That snapshot is still going to be a target, because it's still able to be compromised. So I think there's a huge lesson learned from that statement. Thank you, Eric. I'll go on to the next slide now.
No problem.
Can I just, jump off the back of that? They snapshotted our persistence in some cases and actually just reinstalled it. It was great.
Wow. Yeah, there's a huge lesson to be learned from that. That's a no-no. You'd never do that in a production IT operating environment. You would take system offline, patch it up, clean it up, put system back in to operation.
But what would be good in such a system like that is when you first come up, if you knew that you were having stuff in the cloud, is taking a snapshot when you think it's clean and then checking it out. But
yeah,
that being said, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the red team too. Thug Crowd has been a great group of people that have decided to come and join us and put it on Twitch. And these guys really went after you. And I also had another group of red teamers that were here that were very good, guys and girls. My apologies. So we had a really large group of red teamers. Some of the red teamers that were here are also people that you will see at nationals. So they've got a chance to see everything that you have done. So keep that in the back of your mind if you get to go to nationals. They know what you do. So you got to make sure you keep it fresh. Otherwise, they're going to come after you very hard. That being said, I want to thank Thug Crowd very much. That Twitch TV was a lot of fun. What I would like to do, is there anybody on the Thug Crowd? I don't know if Spooky's here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here under my name. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, well, I want to give you just some time to explain some of the things that you saw and what went on.
Alrighty, sure. So yeah, thank you all for having us again. We kind of came in here a bit last second than we normally would, but we still had a lot of fun to bring everything, bring all of our people together. So basically, like, if you guys don't know Thug Crowd, we are like we used to have a podcast, but we're mainly just like a security research group now. We do CTFs together, did like a bunch of things you might have seen. We also report vulnerabilities. We write exploits and tools and things like that, do bug bounty events. So we do a lot of different stuff. We have a lot of people that are all over the world, very, very large group, a very, very diverse group. And people, all on all ends of the professional spectrum, people who are professional red teams at companies that you use every day, and then people that are just getting started. So we have a lot of really interesting skills. So we came in and we basically, we went over the strategy of what we did. We did a good amount of coordinating that was like a lot of, it was different, I guess, from more real world stuff that we might have done in the past, but we definitely figured out the rules pretty quickly and were able to just jump right in. We did, again, a lot of that scanning and stuff. We had a lot of, we spent like maybe a week just compiling like a bunch of like funny exploits and tools that we've written, different stuff that we wanted to try out that we hadn't, we're still researching. Which is like, again, when those snapshots reverted, we were all discussing like, hey, they lost their opportunity to take a look at some of the cool malware that we deployed on their systems. But so yeah, we had a lot of fun putting all that stuff together. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of went at it. So most of us are, yeah, all of us pretty much were first timers from Thug Crowd to do red teaming on a competitive scale like this. And so I definitely think everyone did a good job here. Does anybody from our team, I guess, want to discuss a little bit about some of the things that they did, and maybe we can get some questions?
Yeah. So there was a couple of things that I wanted the blue team, because I actually got told to stop doing this. And in my experience, this is like a joke. It's not really something I would use on an actual red team. But I was placing logout in the bash RC, only just for root mostly. And we got told to stop doing that. And I feel like from a blue teaming perspective, being able to realize what's going on with something so simple is like super, super important. Some of our backdoors as well that we'd actually written for this, shout out to, I won't name the authors, but they know who they are and our team knows who they are. We dropped those really, really early, and we were using them all the way up until the end. So that didn't include creds or anything like that. There was some stuff we dropped, and there was some better things that we dropped that basically, had we have dropped the like stuff that was like half prepared that we still could have used, you wouldn't have found it based on what you were doing. Like, kernel modules that just don't show up, like just rootkit type stuff. That was all available to us, but you based on what we could see from you, like, we didn't just want to make people cry, because it just would have been persisted, and that would have been the end of that. So, like, yeah, bringing it back around to the blue team messages at the start, like using the EDR and FIM stuff that was available to you probably would have helped like a really, really great, greatly. And then the audit log, when you notice like, SSHing in as root, but you've changed the root password and like disabled root in the SSH, like root login in the SSH config, that should be a pretty big warning sign of where to look.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely also want to say too, real quick, was the blue team people on Twitch. So this is like a really rare opportunity, I guess. Because this hadn't really happened before. We did it last year, but we did it with just one red teamer. But we had a lot of our people on stream sharing their screens, and the blue team, I mean, it was inevitable that they were going to look at our stream, but we also were doing things that were we were like saying and doing a lot of stuff that like we weren't actually doing. Just trying to give like random tips and stuff. Like, we were kind of coordinating in the background too. So if you were a blue teamer and you were sitting here looking at our stream trying to get threat intel and using that in lieu of actually looking at your logs and doing monitoring and just blocking specific IOCs that you saw on the stream. It just seems like, I don't know, that it was tough because we like doing streams and we do streams all the time, but it might have been a hindrance just to the blue teams overall, because the quality of the defense from what we had seen last year versus this year was completely different. The strategy was not the same at all. We saw a lot of more traditional blue team things that would have actually blocked us in a lot of cases, that were a lot of it seemed to be dependent on Twitch. Like there's people that are talking still in our Zoom chat about catting you random to something that they saw on the stream itself, but we literally just let them do that while we logged in again from a different shell on a different PID, migrated it in root, and then we just installed our persistence that way. So it was like, you can do that kind of stuff, and it is kind of funny, I guess, and memey, but I guess a real world perspective, being that reactive rather than proactive is not really the best solution. So if we do this kind of thing in the future, we definitely want to figure out if the way that we did the streaming this year was good, because we came in wanting to teach the blue team stuff and give them realistic scenarios, and we feel like it might have hindered that in a way.
Well, let me ask this a straightforward question. Do you think that you spread around your stream to all teams equally?
Yeah, so we had people that were coming on, and so a lot of the stuff that we did was showing how we were spreading out, say, like Cobalt Strike agents or spamming creds across different shells, like different environments. Gilda did a really good job of having everything in a terminal manager and was showing off different stuff and logging in. And it's tough sometimes, because when you're kind of differentiating between a single digit in an IP address when you're looking at some of this stuff. So it's kind of hard for some people to tell what's happening. But yeah, we definitely spread it out across different things. The biggest thing that caused teams to become more targeted, I guess, was the taunting on Twitch and coming in and saying and talking crap, which that's fine, but it's also kind of a waste of time. If you're over there just talking trash, but then like secretly like we're completely destroying your stuff, and then we have a few screenshots that we even posted of like people from the teams saying like, haha, you'll never get us, like blah blah, and then they're just like, oh crap, all of our stuff is down, and we did a service check that was like on the stream itself, and we'd see like their words right next to like, hey, we're up, like try harder, and then everything is red, so I mean it's fine because we have the capability to do that, but it's just like, at the same time, I mean, it's entertaining for people, but it's also, from a blue team perspective, you'd be very, very lucky, or maybe unlucky, I don't know, if somebody was hacking your actual production environment live on Twitch and you're sitting there negotiating with them and trying to, taunt them and stuff about them not getting into your systems, because that would ultimately, again, in a real world situation, you're already owned when you're doing DFIR. So you're, taunting people like that is definitely not a good practice for sure.
Yeah, and I will say that every year I've seen it happen. It never works, even if you have people that are trying to be really nice to you. Just don't talk to the red team. Honestly, it isn't going to help too much in your effort. But that being said, I want to make sure to any of my other red teamers, or is anybody else on that would like to say anything about things that they did or saw?
Can I make just one more quick note on like some of the things,
Please.
like the PHP old versions and WordPress not upgraded and all that kind of stuff is like, I think the one of the things the blue team could have done day one instantly is like start enumerating what they have, and when the first time you log into a box and the MOTD says update, then update. Fortunately, we didn't actually use a lot of those bugs that were around, but if we had have been forced to, we could have, but we just didn't get to the point where we were forced to use those. But it definitely should have been like a number one thing. If you see that a box has packages out of date, like hit that upgrade. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. Automation is your friend. If you can go ahead and do things like, for example, just look at all the ports that are open at the very beginning, have one person just like, what does the boxes look like? If I do a netstat, I do a diff later on, maybe I might see ports that, callbacks are sitting on and stuff like that. There's a number of things you can do that are out there that, we were very happy that you didn't do. So that makes our life a lot easier. Okay, anybody else? Who's saying what?
Gilda,
What?
Someone said I am the mind freak. It was Chris
I'm the
Angel,
mind
our friend who couldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Gilda, do you
The,
want to chat a bit too? You have a bunch to say. Is your mic on? I don't know if it is. She might just be here listening.
All right. Hey, Alex, I know you're there. You are at Nationals and are on the red team there. You have any advice for those going to National? No? All right.
He might not be listening.
You may not have the mic on.
Hello?
There
Yeah.
he is. Yes.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. Alex Levinson from Core National CCDC Red Team here. I didn't red team Western this year, but I did sit in with the red team, help them do some scoring, and just generally observed. And I was really impressed with a lot of the work that happened this year. All around blue, red, gold, black, everybody, I thought, in this unprecedented time of COVID, really put on a great event here. To answer Eric's question, if you thought that this red team was challenging, I encourage you to continue that when you get to Nationals. So the big difference that I would say between what you saw here and what you'll see at Nationals, Thug Crowd brought a lot of great tools. At Nationals, everybody brings tools no matter where you are on the red team. So you're going to see less of this at Nationals. The kind of the nomenclature that I've heard over the years is people, they get to Nationals and they're like, we're not seeing anything. Hint, we are there. We just have, because it is Nationals, we have some of the most sophisticated tooling that you'll ever get to experience in a competition environment. I mean, we've got volunteers from the military, we've got volunteers from 3-letter agencies, we've got volunteers such as myself who love to sit around and think of stuff that we never release publicly, simply because we want to give you that real world experience of what it's like to go up against some of the best offensive security folks in the world. So to whichever team wins, keep that in mind. It is going to be a level up on your part in order to compete for that national championship. But all around, I thought Thug Crowd and the other red team, and Eric especially, fantastic job this year. I thought the red team really did some great work.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks for letting us use Trap House for scoring. That did help out. So with that said, I know you guys have a lot of questions and I don't want to eat up a whole bunch of time with pontificating here. Do we have questions out there for the red team?
Yeah, if you have a question for the red team or ops team, white team, go ahead and throw it in chat or just unmute yourself and shout it out. We'll go ahead and take some time here. We have, a lot of time for you, the students. This is why you're here to learn. So please ask away.
This is Tyler from Team 6. I actually have a quick question for ops team.
Go ahead.
So I tried updating Windows about 1,000 different times with Windows updates through settings. I tried it with PowerShell commands. I found some of the group policy stuff that was preventing it, but I could never get Windows updated at any point in time in any of our competitions. Was there a trick that I was missing that was preventing it? Was it something in the environment itself?
Honestly, I don't know what would be causing you to have issues on prem. I just turn off the Windows Update service as a feature. It uses too much resources, so I just check that off. But in AWS, we don't have to do anything because AWS is a default policy that turns off Windows Update unless you specifically enable it. I don't have a clue why this would be, but that's something they've done in all their templates. So I just left that as is. And it makes it really difficult to update the cloud stuff because you have to go through a whole bunch of settings to get it to go. But that's about it.
Yeah, because I even tried like with the on-prem stuff, and I found that the services were just turned off. I found a couple of services were pointing, didn't have the right path put into it. I fixed all those, and I still could never get Windows updated.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, aside from the services, that's it. It should be manageable to get Windows Update going pretty easily. We don't purposely block it.
Yeah. We'll take a look at that.
Okay.
I know that it is not Coastline because our infrastructure is off of a completely separate DMZ. We basically fork right off of the internet, off of Scenic. And so there's nothing inside the Coastline infrastructure that would be stopping you. We'll check it out. We'll take a note of that. Ops team will do some testing and we'll try to figure it out. See if
Awesome.
we can isolate it.
Cool, yeah,
But
because I know
thank
that if that wasn't like fixed, because that was the first thing I did day one was work on that, and it took half
that
my
makes a
day.
lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense. So, okay. Well, we'll look for it. Maybe it's a bug.
The other questions are, how do you fix Jenkins? Well, there were a couple ways to fix Jenkins. One, update it, and two, turn on authentication. Literally, Jenkins was I installed Jenkins, and I noticed that if you don't configure Jenkins, you just get the wonderful benefit of having Jenkins unauth and configurable. So I just left it unconfigured and just added jobs to it in that state, and that's what you got. And so if you had just gone through and turned on authentication or anything, that would have fixed it. The script that was changing root passwords via Jenkins was not us. That was Red Team. I noticed that they had done that within the first couple hours of competition. So, yeah, that would have been a good one. And then also, Guild is providing some real good links in chat. One of them is to the Jenkins book to provide information on how to secure the console. So using those resources, especially the Jenkins book and stuff like that, is definitely good. So I hope that helps teams there.
Yeah, they're just firing questions at us furiously here. So a question for the red team. I think Gilda answered it about CPIN.50. How to mitigate Groovy. Brandon DeWin wants to know. Try to update Jenkins and run script to disable CLI, but it didn't work.
Yeah, and Guild is completely correct on that. The Groovy and the CLI, all those would be provided by Gilda's link.
There it is. I just now saw it. All right. Thank you, Gilda.
Yeah, she
Appreciate
had
that.
the link posted.
Yeah. So there was a question about the PAN. Let me find that. Let's scroll up here a little bit. PAN module backdoor initially. I guess that's that was from Gilda. It's PAM, not PAN. I put my glasses on. I'm sorry. Whoops.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was prepared. I don't think the author wants to be named.
Cool.
Prior, so we had that ready to dump in, and a lot of teams didn't discover that, and that was where I was talking about auth logging before. Had they have seen root logging in with PAM authentication in auth log, they could have then further investigated why the root user was allowed, and that was something we had dropped into the PAM subsystem.
Right. So what I saw I got to do all the incident reports and correlate the incident reports to the red team reports, which was a very lengthy job to do. I was up to like almost 3 a.m. doing that. Some of the things that the blue teams did do that they did very well is they took screen captures of logs or of directories where the malware was. So talk a little bit about the malware that you implemented and how did you persist? You said you persisted through the entire competition, which I think is really good for the red team. It's really bad for the blue teams. Talk about some of the persistence methodologies you used.
So we had multiple C2s, I guess, primarily Cobalt Strike, obviously, and they just didn't get found. They went in on day one and stayed in on day one, from day one till the end.
Right. A lot of the other modules and things we did for Linux as well, we just backdoored and a lot of stuff just stayed there for a long time. And then Also the snapshotting and the reverting that would give us back our shells.
Yeah, that
Also,
was-
actually,
Go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say dimorphine was mentioned as well. That was dropped because it was, should be fairly easy to detect. But we didn't really use it. It was just there for helps.
Yeah, it was just
and
there.
I don't think it got used.
Yeah, right. So I think the sim could have come in and played a big part of that, looking for the communication back to your C2s. That's what they're kind of designed to do. Or you could have downloaded a free version of a different one. That's something that the blue team should do. They should practice with different types of defensive tools that can find these things. And the only way you can do that is if you practice some of your offensive security skills and try to mimic these red teamers. And it's a huge, of course, in a safe, controlled laboratory environment. But that's one of, I think, the key things that is either missing from the blue teams or not aware. I had one blue team. I will not let them be named. They didn't turn in any incident reports. None. Zero. So they lost all their red team deductions. They could have gotten up to half of them back, but because you didn't turn in incident reports, or maybe you turned them in late, they didn't get counted.
So there was also some stuff we prepared for Wireshark lols, but we didn't see anybody running Wireshark. So I think like a lot of the hunting for beacons with through PCAPs could have really helped finding our C2s. They weren't like, custom back channels or anything like that. It was sort of out of the box stuff, but we had stuff prepared for like people to see crazy stuff in Wireshark that probably would have made a lot of people laugh. And also, run some disinfo at the same time. Not to mention actually like getting code exec when they do run Wireshark. So we were like prepared for a bunch of things we expected the blue team to do. And yeah, network capture just didn't seem to happen.
Oh, I had a question. So what exactly was the point of it? Because I could never get it to actually do what it was like supposed to do.
Well, I'm going to pass that one to Wasabi because he put that into the environment. But basically what a SIM is supposed to do, it's supposed to track incidents and events. You put agents onto the different systems and then they report back to that central WASA server. You want to comment on that, Wasabi, at all?
Yeah, we had WASA, which is basically a free SIM. It uses OSSEC as its base, and it has Windows agents and Linux agents. You could actually change the password. I posted how to change the password actually in the team chats Discord. But basically, WASA was set up before the competition started, so it was getting metrics on what was normal before, and so you could see the delta if you looked. And then I deployed Agent 7 and Blue Spawn right before the competition started to make sure that teams had that as well. That was one of the easiest deployments ever. It's designed by competitors for competitors. I had that set up and running. It's literally just a set of Docker containers and a Windows installer. And it was up and running in less than 10 minutes, which means teams have the capability of clean installing it themselves if they so desired. But all those combined are monitoring for abnormalities and things doing odd activity that shouldn't be happening on a system. So if you had taken a look at those, you would have seen the red team activity quite clearly.
I was monitoring it and I never saw anything. I like it was on my third screen and I never saw anything happening on it. I don't know if it was broken.
Well, red team also got into the WASAs and deleted the data if you didn't change the password. So that could be why you saw nothing.
We changed it. It just never worked.
Yeah, I don't know then. We were using it before the competition started to actually identify stuff and make sure that the services were working. So I know before the comp, at least, it was up.
What teams had? So Jesse from Ops wanted to know what teams had problems with WASA. Throw that in the chat if you don't mind, so he can see. Team 6, Team 7, Team 1. Thank you. Now, okay. About Blue Spawn, we also gave a training on that in the fall with the folks who developed that application. For those of you who were able to catch that, you probably got a little bit out of that. So with that, any other questions here for any of the teams? Please speak now or forever hold your peace.
Alex Levinson from Nationals here.
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Quick comment. We've really enjoyed seeing a lot of these tools like Blue Spawn be developed for CCDC. I can say in my professional life, I don't use Blue Spawn. I have seen WASA used in some professional environments and to differing degrees of success, but generally showing value to the people who run it. I will caution any blue team that advances to nationals, if you think you're going to use CCDC specific tools like Blue Spawn and be highly effective with them, the warning is out now. Be careful.
Ooh, be wary of the secret sauce. No, Alex has a good point because they have had that out in the environment for 2 or 3 years now, and it has not stopped the red team at nationals. They still have their means to get into the systems. It's very impressive. I've watched them at nationals a few years back, and I was wowed. I was like, oh wow, I've got to up my skills because these guys are incredible. Full feedback on all injects. Backing up here, sorry.
Yes, I would say that the key thing is know what's normal, have the way to write your own scripts, use the tools that are there like Nmap and stuff, the basic ones, because the other ones may not be able to use, or like we said, WAS may get hacked and you're not doing anything good. But figure out how to know it's normal and that things have changed and where did they change and how do you go ahead and take care of that besides just trying to play whack-a-mole. It's not going to help you very much.
Yeah. To Brandon Nguyen's question, I saved all of the injects, not just from the regional final, but also from the qualifiers. And I know your team numbers. I would be more than happy. I need a week off. I really need to catch up on my day job stuff for the next week. But I would be happy in later April, early May, and on into the summer. Contact me. We'll see if we can set up something with the white team or the ops team. I can't promise the red team because I have not really worked with a lot of these guys, but I'll try to. Or if you want to know, how you did on your injects, we can definitely give you feedback. I can give you feedback on that. I can go over your service scoring. I can tell you where you lost points, where you made points. I've coached in the past, so I can help your coaches out there if they so desire. But contact me and see if we can set up, a half an hour or an hour to go over your scores, to go over some of your injects. I'd be happy to do that, but please give me a week, 10 days to recoup.
Likewise, I'm also happy to provide feedback as necessary. Yeah. So,
that goes to all teams, not just Brandon's team, but all teams. So let's see here. Some more questions. Was the printer supposed to auto post to Discord directly from cups?
Yes, it worked completely. We tested it before competition. You add it as a printer. Cups was set up to automatically push the print jobs out via the print jobs. And we actually saw teams using it. So, yeah, it definitely worked.
Thanks for putting that out there, Gilda. Really much appreciated. On that note, so this is one of the larger events that we've done from a system standpoint. And I know this question hasn't come up, but I'm going to put Wasabi on the spot. Are we going to put all these images up on the archive server? Do we have room? Do I need to buy more sand?
So most of this will be going up. Some of the things won't be going up. You'll get a functional competition. All the stuff in AWS is just Ansible playbooks, which we'll be putting on GitHub, and I'll zip up so you can get them from the archive server. It's only like 30 megs of files. So the cloud stuff, all 12 of them are just about 30 megs, but the local stuff is quite large.
Yeah.
But it'll all be up there once I get a chance to it. We also PCAP'd the entire environment for all 2 days, including qualifiers and regionals, and that's going to go onto the archive server as well.
Yeah, I want to get those PCAPs for research purposes, as I'm sure any member, blue team, coach, red team, ops, ops has access to it. Yeah, if you want those PCAPs, get with Wasabi. He will be happy to provide them to you. That's a treasure trove of data for research purposes. All right. Any other questions here? Or otherwise, I'm going to move on to what everybody's been waiting for. And that's how everybody did. Are PCAPs separated by team number? I don't think they are. I think it's just one big, huge PCAP, right? Wasabi?
It's 3 PCAPs or 3 PCAP setups running concurrently due to the way our network is set up. So each link between the servers is its own PCAP section or selection. So I'm going to try to merge them into one gigantic PCAP stream, but in reality, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's probably just going to get uploaded as is and let you guys figure it out.
Yeah, just name it for whatever environment. If it was a cloud environment, if it was the prem environment, etc. And then all you have to do, blue teams, is you can go in through Wireshark and you can use filters for your IPs for your team, and you can kind of parse through it in that fashion.
Hey, Brandon, blue screen here. I have a question for blue teams.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Blue teams, any feedback on favorite box or least favorite, most hated box for operational teams purposes? Any box stand out that you really liked or really hated? Feel free to throw that in chat.
CPIN sucked.
Yeah, no, like CPIN was really like annoying. Can like Red Team actually like describe what they were doing with that?
I think Gilda did in chat, but Gilda, if you want to explain it more in depth, please. Or anybody from Red Team?
Yeah, so we had persistence on CPAN. We were putting the Docker, like stop every Docker container into like cron jobs for root. Put log out in the bash RC. We had a couple of scripts that would on login kill every PID that was a PTS, quickly log back in, and then do other things to prevent blue team logging back in. Then the Docker container that contains the boats, the actual boats thing, it was literally like wget overwrite the image and then echo like an image tag into the template for Django, the default template, and that was our deface for the Chris Angel stuff. And that's like copy paste like a series of commands into a terminal repeatedly over and over and over again, and that's all it was.
Yeah, I think a blue teamer and red teamer met in chat finally on their interaction over the last 2 days. That was kind of funny. That's who I was talking to. Nice. What box did you like the most, or that you had the most fun with, blue teams? Dockyard. All right. So was that Ivan's Dockyard? The one that went in on Saturday?
Yeah, that
Yep.
would be Ivan.
Yeah. So we went into one team. It was funny in Discord. I was just kind of cruising around, and all of a sudden I went back to the ops voice channel, and nobody was there. And I was like, oh gosh, what's happening? Something broken. And I saw them all in one team's voice chat, and they were all renamed Ivan. And I thought, oh God, what are they doing? What are they doing? They can't. And no, they're just down there having fun and helping out the team. That was hilarious. That was one of my favorite points from the weekend. All right.
That card was a lot of fun to make. It was also the one we put the most and least amount of effort into. So we're glad everyone liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, you did a bang up job on that. There's a lot of. How did everybody like the Davey, go ahead, please.
Question for the blue teams. So we prepared the Palo Altos for you so you could pick them up on Friday at any time if you wanted, but no teams did. So that's why we forced it on you on Saturday morning. Just wondering, does anyone have any feedback on why they don't want to use pans? Was PFSense, doing everything you needed? And even after putting the pans in, we only saw a couple teams that actually even can, change anything on them.
Team 6 has some input on that one. PFSense is just easier to use. That was the biggest thing. Even trying to learn pan with the environment we got for testing, like I barely had a system that could even support the lab environment to even get my hands on learning the pan firewall system. PFSense is just something that's way easier to use.
So even the 100, the pan 100 or 101 it was, where we gave you the keys, that wouldn't work in your environment.
I mean, like to actually get the Pan OS like virtual environment set up to play with it. Like I have a laptop with 16 gigs of memory and 12 cores. I could barely get the system to run. Like I would have to spin up a massive VM server to actually get that thing to work, just because of how hard it is to make it work. And then I tried that on my VM server, but you have to have like 12 networks for that virtual environment to even work.
Yeah, it's hard to work with them in a virtual environment. I give you that. That's why in the in-person competitions, they're so versatile in the in-person competitions. When you're inside your pod, you can do a lot with them. So that's I appreciate your feedback. I'll pass that along to our folks. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to comment on that, on the pan for day 2? Good, bad, or otherwise, this is why we do this. I would agree with you, Anthony, 100%. They're good. I don't have a lot of experience with pans virtually. I have more experience with them, the hardware. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut somebody off.
I was going to say, I would like to add on the side of the fact that aside from it being a little bit more difficult than PFSense, just in general, it's harder to practice with it outside of the competition. I guess with licensing, it just makes it a little difficult.
Yeah, I sent out licenses, though, to your captains and coaches even before qualifiers, like back in January.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you had and with links to download them, you could practice with them. I said in the workup calls that we did over the last 2 months, hey, you might not see this in qualifiers because they're a resource hog and they're hard on our virtual environment, but with only 8 teams, we could do it. I told you would see it, and my team delivered. So can't say that you.
Can I ask
Go ahead.
a question to the blue team? Did any of the blue teams actually manage to get the payload that was killing the hosts, the one that was just annihilating them at the end of day 2?
Bueller? Which host? Yeah.
Any of the AWS Linux hosts.
AWS Linux host. It was the payload was called by.
Yep.
Okay. Did anybody catch that?
2 versions of it.
Somebody's about to post it in chat. Okay, well, we'll wait a second.
Sweet. Cool. I'm glad someone was able to catch it.
We'll see. I don't know. I think by the end of the day, when the last hour or two, and I see this every year, everybody is just burnt.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very burnt too. Guild of Post. Yeah.
Nice. That's a simple payload.
Very simple. Open it.
Wow.
Brandon, could you run that on stream?
Surprisingly not. Like it's very misleading.
I'll put it back up here in stream, right there. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
It's in chat.
If
that
you can
everybody
actually figure out, if someone can actually figure out why it works, that's the most important part of that. Like it's very short, but if you can figure out why it works, you'll learn a whole lot.
Is this something you found, or is this something you wrote? Or are you not
I
going to
wrote
say?
it.
Oh,
I don't know if the
nice.
author wants to say. Oh,
Okay, fair enough. HTTPS. Oh yes, that's a good one. You have Wasabi to thank for that one. That was a inject that was built up by ops team, given to judging team for your SSL. Wasabi, you want to talk about that real quick, because that was a big headache at the end of day 2. Did he?
Sure. Yeah. So the big thing about the SSL is these days it's very unrealistic to have just HTTP only. So what we did was we switched over in the scoring engine everything to only use HTTPS. And we noticed that teams had thought they'd configured it correctly, but a lot of teams had just failed to fully move over their stuff to SSL as is expected. So that challenge is very real world, and you'll likely see it more often.
Cool. That's a good point. That's a very good point. All right, let me move this out of the way. All right, last
another
call.
thing, I guess.
Go ahead.
So, like, did any team actually use local firewall? Like, any blue team use local firewalls on their machine, like IP tables at all, or did they rely on network? And further to that, did they bother about egress? Because I didn't notice that.
Okay. UFW and IP tables. Some stuff going on in chat here. I didn't hear anybody else shout out though. All right. We tried fail to ban. Password checks were failing on SSH. We didn't want to kick them out. All right. Last call here. Any other questions for any of the teams?
This is Wedgie with Ops team. This year, the question for blue teams. This year was the first time we gave you AWS environments and access to those accounts. Mostly to try and control costs. We didn't give you access to a whole lot of services. But there's, as you know, AWS has a ton of stuff available. Which services would you have liked to have had more access to help make your life more interesting, or make Red Team's life more interesting?
Or make your life easier, whatever. Yeah, we gave you your captains and coaches a heads up weeks in advance, like right after the qualifiers, that AWS is going to come into play. Yeah, it sounds like it made the red team's job a lot harder. Throw this over here so we can actually get on the stream. I should have been doing this the whole time. I'm sorry. All right. So it sounds like it was a decent experience. Here's a good question. Why did it end up being difficult to shut down some of the AWS boxes? It took us ages for some of those to shut down. I would guess
that's not us. That's just AWS.
That's just AWS. And my guess is it's probably because it was running on my account, and I just have a basic account. In AWS, I don't pay for any extras or upgrades, so that's probably why. But that's okay. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Because basically how Wedgie had it set up is we had one single AWS account, and you broke it down, Wedgie, into 8 different groups. Is that correct?
No, each team actually had their own account. It was set up as an AWS organization. So your account was the it was the organization.
The organization,
control,
okay, the umbrella.
Basically, a pair account, and they each had their own individual account.
Perfect.
And yeah, Gilda, I saw your comment there. Yeah, blue team accounts were in play. We sent that information to you guys. I don't know if the only thing you weren't allowed to touch was the organization account access user or role rather, which was for us, on the root account because the team didn't have access to that. Everything else was fair game.
Yeah, they put that. The ops team put that together in less than a month too, which is I was very impressed at how well they did with that. So
no, that's not true at all. We spent a lot of time on that.
You spent more time on that? I thought you.
It was like a month project or something like that.
Yeah. So, but you got skills in that area, Wedgie. But that's a good point because you need to have cloud skills. It's not going away. It's not a trend. It's not a bright shiny object. It's here to stay, and it's going to be mandatory for people that work in IT and cybersecurity to be able to navigate cloud administrative systems. So like AWS console.
Already is, if you ask me.
Yeah. So, all right. With that, I'm going to close out the questions. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. But it's time now to move on to, let me go back to my video here. Thank you. It's now time to go on to category winners. So I have, I think 5 categories that we have. Traditional categories like service uptime, business injects, best defense. But I added 2 more categories this year because it's really important for teams to understand how the scoring works. And the 2 other categories that I put in here were for, I think I called one like IT management. That's basically the people who contacted the ops team the least and had the least amount of points deducted from ops team tickets. So that's kind of important. And this is a game of balance. This is a game of intangibles. You may do really well in one area and really cruddy in another area, and you might think you're doing really well, and all of a sudden you're like, well, why didn't I do so well? This scoring system that we have is based off the national scoring system. And it's really important that you understand the balance between all the different scoring categories. The 5th scoring category was incident response. Again, I know I'm beating this drum a lot here, but it was the teams who got the most points back from their incident reports. You can get up to 50% of your points that you lose from red team, and red team points come out after everything is weighted. So they don't come off the top. They come out after everything is weighted and calculated from service scoring and business injects and customer service points. And that was the other category, was customer service. So how well you did in respects to the orange team services that they were scoring, the manual service checks, if you will. So with that, let's get to it. So best in service this year for WRCCDC 2021. In 3rd, Stanford University. This is not overall. This is just a service category. In 2nd, University of Advancing Technology, UAT. And best in service, UC Irvine. I'll leave these up here for a second, so if anyone takes a screenshot, I know we tweet all this stuff out on social media and everything else. I'll try to give a couple of seconds that people can grab that. Okay, best in IT management. I think I got, let me pull up my, oops. Okay. In third, so this is business index. I think I have this misquoted. This is business index. Oh, excuse me. I take that back. No, this is IT management. This is points given or points taken away from help from the ops team. So the least amount of points, I should say, the least amount of points. So third was Stanford University. So they had the third least amount of deductions from consultation deductions. So I apologize for the title there. It was 3 o'clock when I was doing this. In second, UC Irvine. Okay, least amount of deductions. And in first, CSU San Bernardino. I'll leave that a second there so that. No, the service rankings do not take into account service points. The service points do take into account SLAs. All right, the SLAs, they do take in that to account. The consultation deductions, which is consultation deductions, they are treated like incident deductions from the red team. They are taken off after everything is weighted. All right, best in index. Pretty straightforward here. In third, UC Riverside. In second, Arizona State University. And in first, Stanford University. Okay. Best in customer care. Wow, I goofed this one up, didn't I? Whoops. So third was, this is what happens when you go live. Third was UC San Diego. Second was UAT. This is orange team points. And first was UCI. Moral of the story, don't do PowerPoint at 3 a.m. All right, moving on. Best in defense. So this is the teams that did the best at keeping the red team out. In third, Stanford University. In second, UC Riverside. And in first, San Diego State University. And best in incident response. Third, UC Riverside. Second, Arizona State University. And first, Stanford University. So, time to move on here, folks. And it's been a great year, but we have to award trophies. So I don't know if anybody can see this, but this is the third place trophy this year. All right. Presented by Palo Alto Networks and Coastline College. So in third place with a score of 12,828 points is UC Riverside. Third place, UC Riverside. Congratulations. In second place, I know it's hard to see the trophy with the background. I apologize. All right. Trophy presented by ISACA Los Angeles chapter with a score of 13,761 points. And competing in the national CCDC wildcard round. So they're not over. They're not done. They live to play another day. which will be held on April 7th, 2021. By the way, that's a Wednesday. Stanford University. Congratulations, Stanford University. All right, so winner of WRCCDC 2021 with a score of 14,306 points. What? Nah. Okay, so this is a trick that the red team tried to play on me. Stop trying to hack my prezo. But seriously, in first place with a score of 14,306 points and winning the WRCCDC trophy, first place, presented by VMware and Carbon Black, is the University of California, Irvine. Congratulations, UCI. They will be going on to the national competition later on in April. Okay, I will be in contact with the captains and coaches of both Stanford and UCI for further instructions. I'll be sending an email with their contact information to Mr. Dwayne Williams at the national organization with all their contact information at UT San Antonio, and he will be in contact with you for your next steps for Stanford and for UCI. And I want to thank all the teams that competed this year, not just in the regionals, but those who participated in the qualifiers. Stay tuned to our website. Stay tuned to our social media. We'll be doing announcements about up and coming events over the summer, potentially, and definitely next fall with our invitationals and our training sessions that we do. It's a wonderful community. I cannot thank my staff and my sponsors enough. I really think I got the best job in the world running this thing. So thanks, everybody. Good luck to our finalists. And that's it. We will hopefully see you next year in person. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, and everybody else that's on the team.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job. See ya. Thanks, everybody who are streaming too. We're going to jump off now.
Thank you very much, the crowd. Appreciate your help and support.
Of course. Thank you.